Trump's overall actual goal is to get rid of the Federal Reserve. And let me explain how he's going to do that.
Hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics. And today, excited to talk with someone that I've been following his YouTube channel and research and really admired for quite a while. His first time on the show, which if you can see over there, is Bitcoin Ben. And going to dig into some of the fascinating things that are happening, touch on some cryptos today, also how cryptos and metals, we can all play along here, all on the same team. So don't get offended that we're talking cryptos just yet. I think Ben has an incredible ability to explain these things. And just real quick before we get started, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. So as I'm fortunate to have, I was told I'm supposed to point. I don't know if I'm pointing to the right side or not yet, but there I'm pointing. So hit the notification bell.
Like and subscribe.
And with that said, how are you today, sir? Bitcoin Ben, it's great to have you on here.
Oh, I'm doing great, Chris. I'll tell you what, it's I appreciate you having me on, and I'm excited because gold and silver and cryptos, we have a common enemy in the global financial markets. Living in a world of illusionary fiat is a war that we're on exactly the same side. We just keep shooting each other in the foot.
I couldn't agree more, and it reminds me of the Demopublicans, as I like to label them into one. And I wonder sometimes if it's just let's keep people divided, fighting amongst each other.
It's if you're looking for the problem in our government's not the Republicans, or our problem is not the Republicans, and it isn't the Democrats. The problem is the progressives. The heart of the cancer that is eating away our republic is the progressive movement, which is basically the globalistic view of control of economies and markets and culture, and even the actual the layout of the world countries. So it's I wouldn't blame honest Republicans who are representing their people, and I wouldn't blame the honest Democrats who are representing their people in their area. Who I would blame is the progressives who don't really care about America more than they care about transitioning the American economy and the American monetary system out of the control of the American people and into a global control structure.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, because it's especially for folks who may be hearing all this for the first time, let alone some of us. I've been diving in for a decade. I always wonder what it's like to people who've seen this happening in slow motion for 30 or 40 years. Because first on my list that I was been excited to get your comment on, I know you've talked about some of these things before, where 3 or 4 years ago, we heard a lot of this narrative that Trump was basically, as our friend Bixby says, the bull in the china shop, was sent in there to blow up a lot of this deep state, globalist, whatever you want to call it, which I found a little easier to believe is possible earlier on. Then now we've heard big fat bubble while he was campaigning, yet now he wants negative interest rates and QE. Anything you could touch on there, of separating
Yeah,
fact from fiction?
yeah. To really grasp what Trump is doing now, whether or not you're pro-Trump or you're anti-Trump is really irrelevant. In uh, his agenda aligns with the right and the left, the honest left, uh, and that's why doesn't. Uh, Trump would rather have a if Trump was going to lose, he'd rather lose to a person like uh, Bernie Sanders, who is a nationalist, than like a Hillary Clinton, who is a globalist, because at least he knows, you know, Bernie Sanders is an America first type of person, except his idea of running a country is actually based on socialism. Oh, it's the war is nationalism versus globalism, and not really like socialism versus capitalism. That's more of the local argument. Yeah, and Trump, Trump's overall actual goal is to uh, get rid of the Federal Reserve. And let me explain how he's going to do that. And there's a reason I know how he's going to do that, because he's basically taking the um, uh, oh, I forgot the president's name. The Andrew Jackson route of actually getting rid of it, and it's basically based on the interest rate at the Federal Reserve is is their tool of control. They have this illusion that they've created over generations that in order to run the country, the people inside the country must actually be taxed in order to run the government. Well, that's not true. America was originally created, and the funding mechanism for the federal government was actually tariffs. And so, if you know your history, Andrew Jackson led or removed the equivalent of the Federal Reserve in the 1840s, the same way Trump is now. Is he wants the Federal Reserve to drop the interest rate to zero or even go negative. It doesn't matter to him, because what that would basically do is represent a transition from the illusion they've created that they need this interest rate to manage the currency, and that once the Federal Reserve goes to zero interest rates, Trump can easily slide the Federal Reserve into the Treasury Department again, because that he can execute with an executive order, because the Federal Reserve runs off of a charter, and a charter can be removed with an executive order. Now, once the Federal Reserve goes to zero interest rates or even negative for a little amount of time, that actually gives the economy and our economy time to naturally balance out uh, ourselves on an environment of zero interest rates. This is a way to collapse the Federal Reserve System without the economy collapsing.
Right.
Because we'll gradually adjust from a system that's based on interest rates into a treasury note which has no interest. It's and that is constitutionally in line with the currency of the U.S. government, the U.S. government producing our currency.
Right.
And that's how you get rid of the Federal Reserve without a collapse. You actually manage a transition out of the Federal Reserve structure and into the Treasury structure. It's why Trump is moving the Secret Service out of the NSA and into the Treasury Department again, because the Secret Service, part of their job was monitoring and regulating like counterfeit and our currency system. That's why they were created. And whether you like Trump or you don't like Trump, I guarantee we all can agree that the Federal Reserve is not good.
Yeah, I think that's something everyone can support. It's funny. I was thinking about that first time I saw an "End the Fed" sticker, and I giggled at it and mocked the guy before. There were people pointing out really the things that this organization gets involved in. So that's certainly encouraging to hear that that's going on behind the scenes. Any timeline on? I know the timeline's often the tricky part, but um, especially for us metals fans who been taking a beating for a while.
Oh yeah.
Is that going to be a Christmas present and the Fed?
We're seeing him move the chess pieces now because the trickiest timeline is now up to the election.
Yeah.
Because that he's moving his chess pieces at the same time that the global banks are moving theirs, trying to get in front of him. It's why Powell does not want to drop the interest rate. He's like, no, we're good. Well, with the flattening of the yield curve and the inversion of the yield curve happening right now, he'll have to lower the interest rate because that if he doesn't, the economy collapses, the system collapses, because then it will be cheaper, or you'll earn more if you buy a long or a short term yielding bond than if you buy a 30-year bond. And the important bond is actually the 10-year bond. That's what every other like lending mechanism, from your house loan, auto loan, all of those, uh, those rates originate at the 10-year act, actual bond.
Yep.
And if the 2-year is yielding more than the 10-year, then you got a little issue, because no one's going to buy up the 10-year if they can get a higher yield from the 2-year or the 1-year, or hell, the 6-month, the 3-month, you know. And that's why the Federal Reserve will have to drop the interest rate. And the flight of capital right now, if they get even, and I'm actually thinking if the Federal Reserve gets anywhere near 1%, I mean 1.9, 1.99, anything with a 1 in front of the decimal, and you're going to see silver and gold and cryptos go friggin' ballistic, because then every other major global currency is at zero or damn near. Some of them are negative, and all of them are damn near at zero. So there is no flight to safety of the US dollar if it's at 1% or lower, because then there is no flight to safety. There is no fiat safe haven anymore, and that's going to push people into gold, into silver. Hey, princess, and and into cryptocurrencies in a way that we've never seen. And screw your derivatives. The derivatives are not going to be, they're not going to be able to like manipulate any of the silver markets with derivatives. Because what you're going to see, and this is when the rubber hits the road, is when clients are no longer willing to settle out in cash. They want the delivery. And the last thing that the Comex wants is a bunch of people going, yeah, where's my gold? Or where's my silver? And let one, it's just going to take one, failure to deliver on a Comex gold or silver contract, and you're going to see the biggest shit show you've ever seen in your life in gold and silver. People are going to be going to their local dealers, and they're going to look like crackheads at the window, because they're going to be like, I just want that coin right there. Come on, man. Because that's the end of the show right there. A failure to deliver in a global gold and silver market that's it. You might as well roll up the streets.
Yeah, you definitely know how to hit my sweet spot there. I think I'm in the running for world's biggest silver bug. And especially a lot of the comments I see on the videos I make where we talk about gold and silver a lot. And I get it. People are saying, well, I'm tired of hearing it's manipulated. And I think there are people who are still giving up and saying, you know what, I see Tesla stock going up. But do you think we're getting close to that point? Because that's what I've always wondered, where I hear numbers of 500 plus paper claims for every ounce of physical metal, which sets up the short squeeze of a lifetime. When it happens has been the big question, but you're seeing us getting pretty close to that point.
Absolutely. It's, and this is not an opinion of mine. This is not me like wishy-washy kind of rolling dice. The Federal Reserve is in absolute, panic mode. the overnight repos are just ridiculous. The 1 week, they're creating like a 3-day repo. A one would, hell, we'll lend you anything for anything, you know, and and Powell basically announced last week that they'll buy up toilet paper, you know, whatever it takes in order to prop up this market. They'll buy any type of derivative, anything that's, you know, slumping, or like oil. If oil drops, well, they'll buy some of that up. You know, if like the market is like going, they'll buy some of that up. They're literally going to print U.S. dollars as many as it takes, and the uh, the weak point is the bond market, because the bond market is where they can't um, they can't print up that much money that winds up making its way into the bond market without flattening the yield curve. They can't do that. That is just mathematics. And so they have to actually balance out this interest rate versus printing of money versus bond purchases versus the yield rate. They're doing a juggling act that we're now reaching the point where it's it's it can't last much longer and not have something lock up. Because another thing that a lot of people don't realize is a lot of the trading volumes is ran by electronic trading. We aren't talking humans who are like sitting here like pressing buttons going, I got a sell ticket. You know, these are trading bots that trade the actual market based on the propaganda put out by the mainstream media, and so they're trading in line with the mainstream media. Problem is that the mainstream media, as they're trying to assist the economic friends, they're going to be revealed as blatantly lying to the general public. And the general public, that's what's going on right now. If you read some of the financial print pages, the headlines, you're reading them and going, wait, that's not even what the hell's happened. It's And the reason they have to print that is the algorithms of the trading bots. That's where they get their information from. And if the mainstream media puts out something even remotely true in the reflection of the economy, and Trump, what he says with the best economy ever and blah 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 blah, there's a reason for that. It isn't that he's lying to us, because we know he's lying, right? It's that he's lying to the system that is ran on automated trading bots. And he's propping up the market, not only with the plunge protection team, but he's also propping it up because his tweets and what he says is actually part of the algorithms. You know what word I'm trying to say, right? So as long as his tone is positive, the algorithm weighs that in its calculation.
Huh.
Oh, he's not lying to us. He's lying to the algorithms. It because it is exactly what you said. It's like, wait a second. When he ran, he told us the truth. But now that he's president, he's lying to us. Well, he knows we know that, but he has to work the system we live in. The reality of the system is if he comes out and goes, all right, this is all bullshit. This is all just absolutely fluff and bullshit. The market is going to tank so quick because all of these friggin' bots will front run the negativity of the messaging in the media ahead of every other bot. And it will cascade into a drop of the market that we've never seen before in our lives. You talk about bankers jumping out of windows. There will be janitors who work at banks jumping out of windows just because they know a guy who made such a bad damn trade that they're going to sympathetically jump out with him. It's so bad.
Like Terminator 2 playing out in the financial markets.
Exactly.
Which
So
is
that's what's actually going on. It's he lies with purpose, and it's although we don't like that he's lying. It's for those of us who know. It's you kind of go, yeah, sorry, brother. Yeah, but we feel you. We know why. Because now, mind you, that's up to the election. Once he's reelected, oh, you're going to see a whole different Trump. Trump is going to go from defensive Trump to offensive Trump. And offensive Trump is a bull in the China shop.
yeah.
And the China shops just got a new shipment of China. And Trump is going to go through and he's going to start demolishing this system. And it's going to be managed as well as possible. But you also have the progressives that once Trump wins, it's all, I mean, we're talking JFK scenarios where they're going to pull out everything and anything they can. And all of our allies over in Europe at the like European Union and all that, oh no, they're not going to be friendly even remotely. It is there. That's when it's going to get serious. Uh, that's when the gloves are off on both sides, and hopefully, the war that has been raging inside the government does not break out into the general public.
Yeah, let's certainly hope so. And you can understand why people are frustrated. And it was interesting you mentioned JFK because another thing I've wondered about Trump, where regardless of people's views, I mean, he is a good salesman and a showman with his show, The Apprentice. And I've wondered if he really wants to expose some of this stuff, which you kind of just answered. Why not do an apprentice style special about MK Ultra and say, hey, this is what these guys were doing. And along those lines, you mentioned JFK, which I guess it was 2 or maybe even 3 years ago now, where Trump was close to releasing the JFK documents. So you think stuff like that, I guess maybe two-parter, eh? It sounds like you feel that, my guess is that it's already decided whether Trump is president or not, regardless of the election circus. But I mean, and stuff like that will be coming out after he is.
Yeah, not only uh, there's a lot of truth that the general public is not going to like MK Ultra. 90% of the general, hell, I'd say less than that, probably 98% of the general public has no idea what MK Ultra is or was, or because really there's still remnants of it. In JFK, what I meant with JFK was kind of not only the truth of what happened with JFK, but JFK, for those who aren't aware, launched what was called the Kennedy dollar. The Kennedy dollar was a currency out of the treasury. And about a month later is when JFK was no longer with us. And it's when you start playing in the realm of the currency and they feel honestly threatened that the gloves come off, and that's whenever Trump's in real danger of the A word.
Yeah, it's gonna be fascinating. I can't even imagine what will happen prior to the election, but certainly to see some of those things would be rather life-changing, I would go as far as to say. And I also get what you're saying, where it's like some of these things, you know, if you study it year after year, yet I get it where, you know, if you lay all this stuff out there in one day, it's probably more than most people could imagine would be able to handle. Although, again, is why I appreciate that all the things you're sharing today and also on your channel, which I really recommend people to go check out. So that is the first part of my interview with Bitcoin Ben. Certainly some fascinating things he shared. And if you enjoyed that, then I think you're going to love part two, which will be coming up shortly.